Good afternoon, everyone. So, welcome back to the second session of the day. And we are here with Dr. Amrit Pal. He is Assistant Professor in Vellore Institute of Technology, Chennai. Dr. Amrit Pal has extensively worked in the area of big data analytics and data mining. So, he has several publications in the area, and you can visit his profile and find out his research domain and research publications. He has a fairly good number of publications in this domain. So Dr. Pal will be speaking on big data analytics. What are the current challenges and what are the possible solutions in this area? So without delaying the session any further, I'll hand over the session to Dr. Pal. Dr. Amrit, please.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So a very good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, in whatever the time domain you are in. So I have my best wishes. So I'll be talking about large scale data analytics, challenges and possible solution in this domain. So I'll be covering I will introduce this term, what is large data? What are the challenges that exist in analyzing this large amount of data? Okay, then how to adapt for these different challenges, how we can adapt our mining algorithm, our machine learning algorithm for handling this volume of the data. Then I will brief you about some analytical approaches which are there, with the help of which we can handle this large amount of data. And I will make you understand a possible workflow with the help of which you can handle IoT data, okay, in context of large scale data. And then different available approaches which are there, with the help of which you can handle this large scale data. So because the domain of the workshop is about IoT, Internet of Things, and images and wireless sensor networks, so I'll be focusing on the data which is there in these domains. Okay, the Internet of Things, the images, and the wireless sensor network. So what is large data? So large data, this term is used for a big data analytics, okay, and in terms of when you have the scale, the data in that scale that your system is not able to handle. And when we say about handling of the data, it means the system is not even able to process the data, the system is not able to store the data, the system is having some difficulty in processing the data. Okay, so what is this handling means? You have learned different machine learning algorithm in the before previous sessions. Okay, so those techniques were like that. The speakers were talking about artificial intelligence and applying artificial neural network. Then you may have heard about support vector machines. So there are these type of algorithms which are there, with the help of which we can extract some relevant information from the data. Now all these algorithms have some complexity, and that by the complexity I mean that for example, if we take the support vector machine, the complexity of the support vector machine increases as the number of sample increases. So it goes up to n cube, where n is the number of samples. So if the number of samples are very high, so it is difficult to apply support vector machine. So how to handle these type of challenges? So first I'll give you a brief overview how you can handle these type of challenges when the number of samples for training, okay, are very high. So let me give you a brief idea how the mining in context of large data is basically understood. Okay, so to consider this, for example, there is one elephant you can see, right? So the methodology in mining large data and how you can visualize the scale of the data. Consider there is an elephant and there are 4 blind persons which are trying to identify the shape of the elephant, right? So this person over here may think that it's a wall, because all these 4 persons are blind basically. So this person may think it's a wall. This person may think it's a rope. This guy may think it's a tree, right? So there are different assumptions which all these 4 persons are going to make. Okay. Now same is the scenario with large data. We have a large amount of data. We can't store it on one machine. So if we process it on one machine, the one machine may give you a different result. The other machine is going to give you a different result. By machine, I mean you are applying some analytical approach over there. Okay. Here, this machine may be giving you, going to give you some other result. So, but the task would be very easy if this complete data set will be on one machine. Then we would be having only single result. Now, how to overcome this difficulty? Because the challenge is there. We can't process it at once. In one run, we can't do that because of the scale of the data. Okay, so the available approaches which you can do, you can follow a distributed and parallel approaches. There are distributed and parallel approaches available with the help of which you can mine. I'll give you the example of these approaches. Again, the challenge exists in terms of data pre-processing. You had one talk in this workshop only, how to prepare the data. Okay, how to prepare the data, which data is relevant, which data you should use as input to your machine learning algorithm, which you should not. Okay, so data pre-processing is important. Now, how you are going to do data pre-processing when you have data of such scale? Okay, so that is a challenge. Now the transmission of data. So I told you about that this is one machine which is giving you some result, and this is the another machine which is giving you some result. Now how these 2 machines are going to talk to each other, how they are going to talk to each other. So that is also a challenge, how we are going to transmit this amount of data, right? So this is a conventional approach. Like we have a large amount of data. Okay, we have some amount of data. We apply a mining algorithm. We apply some mining algorithm to find the patterns. We may apply a machine learning algorithm to, for example, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, to get the final information. Okay, and this process, because this process is going to take a large amount of time, because you are mining lots of data. So the naive scenario would be, the naive idea would increase the power of the machine. So you start mining with a number of process with the machine having more processing power, then you can get that. But it is costly. Okay. So what you can do, the more efficient manner is, the idea of distributed processing is this, for mining the data, that we have a large amount of data. What we can do, we can divide this data. Okay, initially it was like this. In the real time scenario, you will find out there are heterogeneous. In case of IoT, there are number of sources of the data available. So the idea would be that you should mine the data there itself, there at the source itself, okay, or at some base station itself. So you divide the data, okay, and then you mine the data over there only and generate some information. Here also you divide the data and generate some information. Now the idea would be how you are going to combine this information, how you are going to combine this particular information and going to generate the exact information which was there, or approximately close to the intended solution. Now I give you the example like this. It seems easy that we can do, but even a small problem of mining it would not be able to solve very easily. For example, if you simply you want to find the average. Okay, so if you have for example 1 million numbers, okay, and you want to find out the average of those numbers in a distributed manner, then until you are not going to exchange some data between different processing units, till that time you will not be able to do this task in an independent manner. You will not be able to do that. Okay, so that is the challenge. Now the objective is to reduce this amount of data which you are going to exchange between different processing units, right? So if I combine this challenge in one slide, you can see this is our complete data set. Okay, this is our data set, large data sets. Whether you need to partition it or not, we have to decide whether we are going to partition the data or not. This need to be decided. So if we partition the data, then what we are going to have, we are going to have a subset of the data. Now keep in mind, there lies a challenge, how you are going to partition a data set. Okay, the first challenge is this only, how you are going to partition this particular data set, which approach you are going to follow. The idea, in case of the simplest idea, do it in a random manner. That is more realistic. Okay, if you have the processing power to have a well organized partition, it means you don't need this type of infrastructure, right? So you need to first, you are required to divide the data, and you need to plan how you are going to partition these data sets. Okay, so what you are going to have, you are going to have this different data partition. You are going to have these different data partition. Now you can apply a single processing unit with this partition. Okay, so this partition is also going to have one processing unit. This partition is also going to have some different processing unit. So you will have, in this case, for example, 4 different processing units which are going to process this data, right? So then which algorithm you are going to use and how you are going to do that. Okay, will you be applying over here for example, if you are doing a unsupervised learning, so what you will be doing, you are going to apply k-means clustering. Okay, some clustering algorithm, for example dbScan, are you going to apply? Again, there lies the challenge. Can you apply k-means over here if the scenario is like this? Because in case of k-means clustering, what we need to have, we need to scan the complete data set, all the samples, then we find the distance between each and every point, then we proceed. So in that case, in a very simple manner, you can't do that. Okay, here also on different machine, if you take the example of for example, there is one scheme dbScan. Okay, density based algorithm. Okay, so in case of dbScan, are you going to do that? Will it be feasible? So we need to have, there is the idea, we need to have some new approaches which can handle this particular scenario, which are going to run in an independent manner. In case of supervised also, if we take the example of for say support vector machine. Okay, in case of support vector machine, what you need to have, you need to find out a hyperplane between 2 classes. It's a binary classifier, you need to have a hyperplane. Now what that hyperplane, how we actually get that hyperplane, we scan over different points. That's why the complexity was n cube. So, and the data is not available, the complete data set is not available to this processing unit, it is not available to this particular processing unit. How you are going to get the hyperplane which actually be applicable to this particular data set over here? Okay, so how we are going to get that hyperplane which is eligible for this also? So that is a challenge. Okay, so these are the challenges which are there when we talk about the processing of the large scale data. Then if we made some arrangement, okay, I'll show you how you can manipulate that. Okay, if we made some arrangements, then there is a challenge that how you are going to aggregate the results, different results. So different processing units may be giving different results. So you have a IoT ecosystem where you are continuously getting the data, the stream of data is coming. You may be processing data in a distributed manner, okay, from all the different places. Okay, this can be geographically located on different places also, but you are getting some result. Okay, if you take the example of supervised learning, you are getting the class labels. Now, what is the actual result? Because you are doing it in a distributed manner, what is the actual result? How you combine the results generated by different machines into one single result? How you can do that? So how you will be able to do that? That is the question. So this is one challenge. So if I give you the challenges, these all are the challenges which are there when we talk about large scale data processing in context of IoT. Okay, because IoT data is the ecosystem is continuously generating the data. How we can handle that data, right? So there is, let us have a perspective of supervised learning. Okay, I'm not going to tell you about any particular algorithm in this case, as you have already learned about them in the previous sessions. So a simple perspective is that we have some raw data, okay, and we are going to, what we are going to get, we have some raw data which is used as input, and then we are going to get an output, that what is the particular class label, okay, for a particular sample, right? So different samples are going to be used, different instances of the data are going to be used, and in case of supervised learning, after training, you will get the result. And how you can improve your the accuracy of the results, you train with more samples, okay, and there are different challenges in the data, you extract good features from the data, right? So you enhance your algorithm. Okay, so you will be keep on enhancing your model, which is predicting the data. So this is a generic aspect of supervised learning, right? So, and let us let me give you an example of support vector machine. So as I have given, as I told you, support vector machine, we are going to get a hyperplane which is going to separate two different classes, right? So, and the complexity I told you about. Now the challenge is how we are going to get this hyperplane when the data is not there. For example, this point over here, this is the support vector. This would have been residing on different machine. Okay, the machine on which we are calculating the hyperplane, this point is not there. And in case of this particular point also, this point is not there. So in an IoT ecosystem, you are getting data from different sensors, and this data point, the sensor which has generated this particular data point belongs to different base station, right? And because the scale of the data was very high, what we have done, we have processed the data at base stations only, and then we are getting some results, right? So there exists the challenge how we can handle this situation. So there are several solutions proposed. Okay, so one solution is have a simple voting, like you may have seen in context of random forest algorithm. The different classifiers generates result, and the final result which we generate is by voting only. Okay, that is an example of ensemble learning. So we have different subset of the data set. We have different subsets of the data set. We execute individual support vector machine on each subset of the data set, and when we get a point to test, okay, for example, we get a point T which we want to test, so we will input this T and we will test this point on all models or over all support vector machine which we have learned. Then these machines are going to generate the class labels, okay, and then we perform a voting. So this is one type of solution which exists in the literature to handle this large scale data analysis, right? So this is a simple voting. Now the problem is that if the distribution of the data is not uniform, okay, so in that case you are going to have very different distribution into these subsets of the data, okay. So in that case, this approach would give you less accuracy. The accuracy would be less, but it actually handles the challenge of large scale data analysis up to some extent, right? The one solution would be like what we do in this case, we were generating the results here itself. One approach which is known as cascade SVM. In this scheme, what we can do, we first again we are going to have different subsets of the data set. Now we apply support vector machine on each subset of the data set. Now, instead of generating the actual results, what we try to generate from this, we try to generate a support vector machine which is applicable to the complete data set. Okay, the methodology is like this. For example, here in this slide I've told you that we process, we get a model from here. We don't get an information, we simply get a model. We simply get a model from this particular processing unit here. Okay, we simply get a model, and based on that model we combine the model itself and generate a model which is applicable to the complete data set, right? So this cascade SVM is an example of that type of solutions. So here in this, the one support vector machine we are going to implement at each data set. Okay, so you're in a distributed scenario. Okay, so your different processing unit are going to apply this support vector machine over each data set or each subset of the data set exactly. Now from here, some compressed information is going to be generated. So this compressed data is going to be used to generate a new support vector machine. Now what is that compressed data which they are going to use? Now this compressed data would be, for example, if we simply collect the support vectors only, right? Instead of generating the plane, instead of generating the hyperplane, what in case of cascade SVM is done, we collect the support vectors. So for example, if here I have say I have 1 million points, 1 million samples, data instances. So we reduce those data instances to 1000 because we are only collecting the support vectors, right? Here also, in this case, here also what we do, we just simply take the support vectors. Then based on if I have 1 million point over here, 1 million point over here, and I have compressed those points into support vector, now I only have 2000 point onto this particular machine, right? Right. Now again, in this case, I think I'm doing something wrong. Okay, done. Sorry. Now again, here also we are going to do the same thing. Finally, we are going to get the support vector machine which will be applicable and to the complete data set. So this is one type of solution. Okay, so with this is a support vector machine. Now the challenge is, because there are so many implementation of support vector machine, so the complexity is going to increase. And again, the data set is not uniform. If the data set is not uniform, in that case you are going to face the challenge. Okay, in this type of solution also. Now the another type of solution which is there for this support vector machine also, the MapReduce solution. So MapReduce is used in case of big data to mine the data set. So there will be a mapper function, there will be a reducer function. With the help of HDFS and the Hadoop implementation, you can do that. So with this implementation of this cascade SVM can be done using MapReduce. Okay, so one mapper function may be getting the support vectors, So different mapper function in the cluster are going to generate support vectors, and those support vectors are going to be used by a reducer function to generate the final SVMs. Right. So this is one type of solution. Again, the problem is that because if the data is not uniform, that is the data is not uniform in case of IoT data, this is the case. This is a normal case. Okay. So in that case, what we can do? So in the previous all three solutions, I told you that if the data is not uniformly distributed, then what we can do? So there is one solution. First, you pre-process the data. Okay. First, you pre-process the data and make partitions in such a way that your algorithm is going to have a uniform data in its input. So first, the complete training data set is going to be divided into different subsets according to their classes. Although this solution is also not very efficient, because we are doing a pre-processing over here. The pre-processing in such a way that we can have different subsets, where in one subset we only have one class. Right? We apply clustering algorithm so that we can find out the dense regions in the data. Right? And based on these results of this particular clustering, then we sample the data and feed this data to different learning models and get our results. So again, the learning model would be support vector machine. Again, if you can use different learning model, but we have as we were talking about the support vector machine, so you can use a support vector machine over here. Now preparing the data, as I told you, data pre-processing is a challenge in case of large data sets. So how you can pre-process the data? You have to come up with a very simplest approach which is going to work for you. Okay, so this first the data is divided in based on their classes. Then from those classes, it is not always that one class is going to have a simple normal distribution. It may have different I would say peak in the data. Okay, even one class. So you find out those peaks with the help of k-means clustering, then you sample the data. So this is the data pre-processing which you can do. Then the problem of that the model is not having a uniform distribution as input will be overcome. So these are some basic solutions. These are some basic solutions which are there to handle large data sets. You have to you have to pre-process the data smartly. You have to distribute your learning model in such a way that you have results which are approximately or equally equally accurate as if you would have done that on one centralized data set. Right. So till this point, if anyone has any doubt, he or she can ask. Okay. Okay. Now, the next thing is IoT ecosystem, right? So all this large data sets, okay, you would have received these large data sets from a IoT ecosystem, right? So what is an IoT ecosystem? IoT ecosystem is basically combination of different IoT devices which are there and providing some services, and all those devices which are providing services in different domains, and they are combined together. Then the idea of this IoT ecosystem comes from there. So we may have some industry, we may have some smart homes, we may have some smart traffic system, okay, we may have some smart cities. All those all the data set which is generated by these systems is combined, and one solution comes up which is IoT ecosystem. So IoT ecosystem includes all these different sensing services which are provided to the end user. Okay, whether it is government, whether it is business, manufacturing, agriculture. Now the trend which is there, where we need to emphasize, okay, as a researcher, as a student, where we should emphasize, how we should select our project. So the trend in the industry is like this till 2020. Okay, the trend is like this, that 20% of this IoT application which are developed are for manufacturing industry. 22, sorry, are for manufacturing industry, manufacturing industrial aspect. So this type of solutions are very common nowadays. Again, the different type of application which are there. The transport, you can check the percentage: 15%, energy 14%, and retail 12%. Cities, by cities we mean smart cities, there are 12%. Healthcare 9%. Okay, supply chain, agriculture, building, and others 3%. So this is the common trend which is there right now in the industry in context of IoT application. So where we should focus? Okay, as you can say, in case of industry, there are 22% of all the application which are developed belongs to manufacturing industry. Okay, so what type of IoT applications are there? I'll give you one example. For example, there is one a wind turbine, right? A wind turbine. So a wind turbine, if the environment is windy, it will generate the electricity. Now, how to monitor that particular wind turbine? We can do that with the help of sensing devices. Now, by means monitoring the health of that particular wind turbine means that we can put some sensors over there on the rotating element of that particular wind, on the checking that if there is lots of friction over there or not. So all these things can be taken care by the sensors. So those sensors are going to generate the data, and what is the task of a data analyst over there? That with the help of machine learning or some analytical approaches, that the model is going to predict is there is any fault in the machine or not. If there is any fault in the machine, it means we need to replace some part. Okay, because if the wind turbine stops, it is going to stop generating the electricity. Again, eventually the production will be less. So it is very important to take care of the faults in a proactive manner, right? So how we can proactively check the fault? We can proactively check the fault using analytical approaches, using machine learning. We would first collect the data, then based on that data, we are going to generate a model. That model is going to predict. Now, because the wind turbines, there are so many number of wind turbines are going to be there, and the data will be continuously streaming. How you are going to handle that data? Which data is important, which is not? I have given you some example using support vector machine. So you can do that in that manner. Okay, again in context of transport, in context of energy, okay, in case of retail, in case of cities, the same thing follows, right? In case of mobility also, for example, there are smart cars, driverless cars. How you can transportation, not only car, even if a simple Airbus, I would say Airbus 320, if you take, sorry, Boeing 320, if you take, so in that case, it will generate data in one flight in terabytes. Okay, even in a single flight. So how you are going to handle that data? How to analyze data in that case, right? So that is the challenge. So these are the basic industry trends which are there. Now, how to handle this type of data which is coming from different sources? Now, one challenge I need to mention over here. See, training a model and saying that it is 99% accurate is not means the case that your task is over. Okay, your task is, if you are getting 99% accuracy, your task is over. Because you have trained that model by yourself only, the data is provided by you only, and you are testing that particular model in the data which you have. Okay, because the models are already available. Now the trend is basically how we can get the effective features for predicting some results in case of IoT ecosystem. I'll give you some example for that also. Okay, so there are IoT services. It means the IoT ecosystem may be providing different services to the user. The user is going to send a service request to the service provider, and we have a pool of IoT service which are there in the IoT ecosystem. The service provider is going to provide you this service. Now the trade-off is here, which means what is the quality of the service which the service provider is going to provide, and what is the cost associated with that particular service. Now we need to have a trade-off between them. Again, this trade-off need to be maintained by machine learning approaches or data analytical approaches, right? You want some prediction, okay, and that prediction can only be possible if you have certain feature, and that feature is costly, right? That feature is costly. For example, if I say cost about a feature, and example is that weight, height, BP, sugar level, these features are available. Is the MRI scan is available? Okay, is this X-ray is available for a person? Because that feature is expensive. So your model may predict with the help of MRI scan, is that scan is so easily available to you? There is some cost associated with that. So when we talk about IoT ecosystem, we need to take care about the cost associated with a particular feature also. So we have some data. Okay, it is not like that you have some data set, you get that database data set from Kaggle, and you start predicting and said that this is our model, it is having so and so accuracy, and it is working fine, and it will work fine in a real-time environment also. So there are, because of this IoT ecosystem, there are real-time challenges. Okay, so, and one very important challenge is that IoT data means maximum time it is going to give you a skewed distribution. Okay, skewed distribution, and the reason behind this skewed distribution is that you are going to have an imbalanced data set. Data set is going to be imbalanced. What I mean by imbalanced data, that if we have, for example, two classes, okay, one is fault class and one is no fault class. Okay, so in that case, that system is going to fail. For example, in the wind turbine example I have taken, so in that example, this turbine, it is not the case that turbine is going to fail oftenly. Okay, the turbine is going to fail oftenly. So you are collecting the data. We are saying that it is, the data is of so and so size. We have so many terabytes of the data, and our model will be predicting very nice results, and it is giving good accuracy also. But the data was skewed, the data was imbalanced. Okay, so it happens that the results are going to be biased towards the class which is a majority class. So this biasness is going to be there. So in case of IoT ecosystem, you put an IoT device on a square and you are monitoring different vehicles and trying to recognize who is a thief and who is going to break the rules. Okay, so if you see, if there are 100 vehicles are passing from that particular square, you will find one vehicle who is going to break the rules, right? And if there is one, in case of wind turbine, the turbine may run properly, means it is very often the turbine is going to fail, because it was built for to be very robust over there. Okay, so this particular challenge exists in case of IoT data. So how you can handle this type of challenge? Okay, how we can handle this type of challenge? Skewed data. Okay, so which type of model we should adopt in this type of data sets? Okay, Although you can apply some, there are ensemble learning approaches. For example, if we consider random forest over there, then we can apply that particular algorithm, but there is a limit on which type of data you can apply random forest. There is a limit on that. Okay, so to handle these data sets, and this slide will give you a simple example of how you can apply the ensemble learning approaches through through some distributed models. Okay, so there are distributed solutions available, like HDFS is there. Okay, Hadoop distributed file system. With this, you can use a Spark model over it, HDFS, to process the data. So the solution would be like, you will be getting data from some IoT sensors, some monitoring devices. You will be getting the data, and the data is going to be stored into the HDFS system, and your Spark model is going to process the data, and some intermediate results you are going to generate. Again, you are going to use the HDFS model to store the results. Then only after extracting, you can do a pre-processing with this. You can apply the classification here also. So in this case, it is that we are pre-processing the data using this distributed model, and then we are going to have very fine features with the help of which we can we can get the final class labels. Right. So this is our final features which we can get. Then we do the classification, and some prediction will be made, and then the decision would be taken in, and that decision is going to be fed to the IoT ecosystem. Okay, so an IoT ecosystem is going to generate some data. You are going to store the data in a distributed manner. You will pre-process the data from there only. Then you will generate some relevant features, and you classify, take some decision, and put those decisions into the IoT ecosystem only. So the mining or machine learning, applying machine learning approaches to IoT ecosystem require this type of model. With the help of this type of model, you can do that. It is not the case. I'm not telling that you want to predict the some sort of health. If I say for some patient, then you have some feature from that patient and you start predicting. Okay, IoT ecosystem is that we are getting the data from heterogeneous sources. Based on that, what you can do, right? So this is one type of solution which you can implement through basically HDFS and Spark model, right? Now again, I told you a very interesting trend is there, how to handle the imbalanced data. Okay, so there is one class of machine learning which is reinforcement learning. Okay, so with the help of reinforcement learning, you can actually boost your algorithm, which will work on this imbalanced data set. And why we are saying imbalanced data set? Because it is usually the IoT ecosystem is going to generate that type of data only, right? So you may have different classes, but the distribution of those classes is very skewed. The classes are imbalanced. So the idea was that why don't we have more data? Okay, why don't we have more data? So how we can get this data? We can get this data with the help of reinforcement learning. Okay, I'll explain how we can get the data, right? Now, one more thing, if a classifier, okay, if a classifier predict correctly for a class which is for which you have less number of instances. For example, the fault class, in the example which I have given you, fault or no fault. So we are going to have less number of instances for fault, because machines oftenly means it is not very probable that they are going to fail. Okay, so there will be very less number of faults. So how we can means we should have a point in the model that if our model predicts the fault class correctly, then we should motivate our model. Okay, we should motivate that particular model. We should give some reward, and the sense of these rewards comes from the reinforcement learning, where we can actually quantify the rewards. where we can actually quantify the rewards. So we have this, for example, in this model, this is one solution. See, we want to classify this particular image. Okay, this particular image we want to classify, right? So what we can do, we can, there is three things in case of reinforcement learning. There is going to be an agent, there is going to be a state, okay, this S, and there is going to be a action. And based on this state, agent, and action, we are going to generate some data. We are going to generate some data. And based on the results, we are going to, what we are going to do, we are going to improve our network. Okay, we are going to improve our network. So in case of machine learning, if you apply supervised learning approaches, so in that you have the data first, you train the model, then you go with the testing. Now in this case, what you will be going to do, you will have a model. Okay, you start predicting. For example, in this case, we input this sample over here, which is a cat. So the agent is going to predict. Initially, it is going to predict in a very random manner. Okay, this data is going to be generated. That if we are at state S, means the state means the sample which we have applied. So if we input this, what we are getting, whether it is correct or not, that is fine. What is the output? Okay, what is the output of the system? Okay, so it is S2, right? It may have predicted something. Now if we input another sample, it means we move to next state. Then what is the result there? We record this data set. And based on the results in this data set, we provide reward to this particular agent. Okay, we improve the agent. Okay, in this manner, right? So when we will have, for example, in one scan, what we are going to get, we are going to this data set. Okay, we again improve this agent. Then in the second scan, in the second iteration, exploration, technically this name is exploration. We explore the network. We again input the data set. We get some new records, and we are going to put the rewards into this particular agent. And when I say reward, it means we are going to update the weights, okay, in the network, right? Over several iterations, okay, you will find out that your model is going to be improved. And when we talk about rewards, if your model is giving accurate result for a class with less number of samples in the data, then you provide more rewards. So instead of biasing towards the class with the higher number of samples, you have balanced your model so that it is going to predict the class, the minority class, accurately, right? So this is one type of solution which we can have in context of IoT ecosystem, right? So I give you a detailed description about this reinforcement learning model. Okay, so a simple scenario is that, first of all, we generate a sample. We start with a random policy. Okay, we start with a random policy, right? We start with a random policy and generate some sample points, and we estimate the returns which we will get. Returns in the sense the accuracy. For example, in this case, we estimate those accuracies. Then we improve the policy. Again, we regenerate the sample, the data point we are going to regenerate, right? And this regenerated, yes, please. Oh, somebody is asking something. You are not audible clearly. We use a loss function to. Somebody is talking parallelly, I think. Yes, now you speak, please. Yes. Student, the participant who asked the question, repeat yourself, please. You can put your doubt in the chat also. I'll read it from there also. You can do that. Okay. Okay, again, whatever I've heard from that, he was talking about the loss function. So loss function, some boosting approaches, we use those type of approaches in our models, right? So in case of artificial neural network, we do that also. But you would have seen that if we have imbalanced data, the model would not work properly. You will have less accuracy in that case, because again, your loss function is also going to be biased towards that. So one thing, you have to apply some boosting approach over there. You will boost some result or some feature which is giving you good results, right? So those type of solutions are there to handle this data, this type of data. So we have loss function to calculate to get the error, right? So we can get the error from here. So we need to, it is not like that it is a totally different approach. Okay, we are going to use those functions over here also. We will calculate the accuracy, we will calculate the error, but based on that error, we are going to quantify the reward. We are going to quantify the reward. We will improve the model based on that reward only, right? We will promote something and we will reduce the effect of some particular instance, right? So in that case, if you have loss, if you have simply applied a mining algorithm or machine learning approach and the data was imbalanced, you would have a biasness. Okay, you would have a biasness. I think I answered his question, right? So how we can do that, and what are the what is the point of view in that? Okay, so a generic aspect is this. See, your machine learning algorithm, what it is going to do, it is going to tell you that if we enter this image, it will recognize that it's a tiger, right? Your machine learning algorithm, what it is going to do, if we enter this particular image, if your algorithm is accurate, what it is going to say, it is going to say that it's a tiger. It is going to predict, and you will say the accuracy is 100%. Now, in case of IoT ecosystem, the challenge is we are getting data from one type of services, okay, and we want to, based on the results which we have predicted into that particular service, we are going to use that particular result as an action into some different service, right? For example, you have an IoT ecosystem in a city like Chennai. Okay, now what we are you have an IoT system, you have sensors deployed. They are going to say that it may rain today, right? So you will be getting the data. You are getting some data from those sensors, right? It may rain today. Now you are going to use that particular data to take some decisions. Now which action you should take? Now if there is only one result, that it may rain today or it may not, there is a binary classification you have done. You said very good, we have done the prediction of the rain today. Okay, you should not wait over there. Now what we should do next? There may be hundreds of services which are there, to which you can apply this decision. So selecting that action that you need to do in case of IoT ecosystem. Selection of next action, which service we need to start, to which service we should prompt, right? We should be ready with fire, our firefighters. We should be ready with our ambulances. We should be ready with our disaster management. We should be ready with the water supply. Okay, we should be ready with the electricity. All these different sensors need to be prompted automatically. Okay, so manual decision we can take, that is fine. So there is a trade-off between them. How we can, you see, if there is one result, you have different branches of results over there. And for if you select one branch, then again the next branch is going to pop up from there also. Okay, so your machine learning will work fine that you want to recognize that it's a tiger or not. But what action you should take? What action you should take? Are you going to left side, right side? Should you stop? Should you run? Okay, and the you can see the these mimic of this all reinforcement learning you can see in the gamings, right? In a game, when you play chess, you have one chess board. There you are going to do one move over there. Okay, then you will think that if I move this, then he or she is going to move this. You have a trajectory of all the movement. For example, if you are a very good player, you may go up to thousands. Okay, so you will predict that future. So in case of IoT ecosystem, you need to do that, right? That is why we require this type of solution. So there is a tiger, right? So you can predict that that it's a tiger or a cat. You can do that, and if your algorithm is saying it's not a cat, it's not a tiger, it's a leopard. So in that case, what you should do, you will modify your model in that case, right? But what to do when you have this scale IoT ecosystem? So you can apply this type of approaches. So how these approaches works? This is the input, and you are going to have a neural network, right? This neural network is not going to predict that it's a tiger or not. It is going to predict your next move, what you should do, right? So you should go left or right, and based on your action, it will going to produce the next action, right? Based on your action, you will have one entry in the data set. Okay, so we will have one entry in the data set. For example, if I say the first entry is if I simply write over here 1, right? So sorry for my drawing, it's not very good. Okay, don't mind that. So it will predict an action state. This I was telling you about. Okay, so we need to select an action. I'll give you an example which type of actions are there in case of IoT ecosystems, right? So the model which is there, the mathematical model, I will not tell you more about the mathematical equations. Okay, I don't want to bore you in this. So I'll just name the model which is there. The Markov model. Okay, you can go through Markov chain and Markov decision process. That model is there because it is the ecosystem follows a Markov property, right? So we input the data and we come out with an action. Okay, the result will be an action, and based on that action, we would take some results, and we keep on recording those actions. We keep on recording those actions. Okay, and we will have some data based on this, the output of this particular system. We will have new data instances, and we will update the model with the help of these instances only, right? So this is one type of model which is there. With the help of this, you can model and you can predict for IoT ecosystem, right? So it means that, for example, I have taken the example that it may rain tomorrow or today. Okay, so you are going to take some decisions. So which decision is going to give you more benefit? Okay, which decision is better than the other decision? Okay, which decision is taking more means there is more cost associated with that particular decision? That we can do with the help of this learning model, a Markov approach. Okay, and this complete reinforcement learning area means follow this Markov property, and it is based on the Markov decision process. And this is all mathematics, which I will tell you about, nothing else. Okay, right? The application is like this. You have a vehicle in which you want to just simply select which particular part of the road is you can drive on, or which you should not. So you don't have your model should learn itself, okay, by itself only. So how it is going to do? It is going to take some action, okay, and going to keep on recording the data. Okay, so if I take this action AT at a particular time T, then after this I can take several different actions, right? So then from that I have chosen this particular action. So there may be different possibilities. From there itself I've chosen some different actions, right? So it is basically a trajectory. So you keep on exploring this, and you will store this data, and you will check finally when you complete with your exploration. Once you complete with your exploration, you will have some reward, okay, because at particular time T you have taken this action AT. That is why you are getting some reward R. Okay, that is why you are getting some reward R. And if this reward is very high, you should model your you should improve your model with the help of data which is generated in this particular task, otherwise not, right? So that your objective as a researcher should be, or means if you are doing some project, you should be that how you are going to design this R. That is the objective, what this R should be for your project or for your research, right? One example is like this. I'll tell you, for example, in this case, we can generate in an automatic drive mode, we will generate some data. Then this data is we can fit this data to a supervised model. Okay. And this training data we are going to generate with this only, this approach, which I told you about, right? How to apply, and one existing application which is there, right? So in smart health monitoring, I've given you the example that some sort of information is very easily available. You go to any hospital, you will find that information. But would you be able to find the history of a particular patient from that particular hospital? You may or may not, because that keeping that record is costly, right? So your model is like that. You want some reading of continuous streams or a stream of heartbeat result you should have. Then only your model is going to predict the accurate result. So that is costly. So new type of model in context of this IoT ecosystem are like this. Each feature has some cost associated with it. Okay. For example, common information, weight, age, height, okay, that we can get zero cost. Okay, if your model is like this, okay, heart rate, blood pressure, all these features we can get in this much cost. Our blood screening, this is costly. Radiograph is costly. Magnetic resonance is costly. So these features are costly. So in context of IoT ecosystem, you say we should put a sensor of this much cost, we will have nice predictions. So should we do approach in that manner also, right? It is not a good way to approaching it. So you need to provide the trade-off. So how you should do this trade-off, and how you can, while predicting, again the objective is the prediction only. Okay, we are doing this large data analytics for prediction itself now. So the objective is prediction. So how you can predict while minimizing the cost of your network, right? How you can do that? So the approach is like I told you about the reinforcement learning. Again, you can apply, right? You will have a set of features. You will have a set of features. You will select some of those features. This is a mask stands where you are selecting some subset of the information, and sometimes you are not selecting that. Okay, So each feature is associated with a cost. So which feature you should select? So there will be so many permutation and combination over there. And if you talk about the IoT ecosystem, you can consider the number of features and then the cost of associated with those features and then the prediction. Okay, so you need to minimize the cost. Okay, so in case of IoT ecosystem, feature means a new type of device is there in the ecosystem, right? That is the meaning of cost in that sense, right? So you are going to apply those features to a neural network. Again, the combination of this neural network and if we say Q value, it comes out to be a new type of topic, which is deep reinforcement learning. Right. So if this neural network is sufficiently complex and it has many number of sufficient number of hidden units, and you apply this Q learning is basically Q value is basically a result of Q learning, which is a reinforcement learning approach. Again, this R means you can see consider this R as a reward value, right? So reward, we need to, in this approach, how the reward is means calculated, we calculate the prediction result. The R would be a function of prediction result, what you are predicting. If I say Y, okay, Y, and the cost associated with the prediction of this particular approach. Okay, so your accuracy should be high and you need to minimize this cost. So this is new type, means this type of learning model need to be adapted. So the scenario is going to change in context of IoT ecosystem. Previously it was you were having some data set, you apply a learning algorithm, you predict something and you get the result, you compare the accuracy, you have some, or you have some some features like false positive to like that. Okay, you get the confusion metric, based on that you give the results. Now one addition to that is cost, or based on your approach you can modify this particular. So there is many open problems over here when it comes to modeling the reward function in context of learning itself, right? So this type of solution exists over there. Now there are autonomous IoT ecosystem. With this, with this I'll brief you about where you should apply your approach on an IoT in an IoT ecosystem. Right. So there are some autonomous IoT systems. By autonomous, I mean that they are not directly connected to the internet, right? So you have a physical system where you are monitoring your industry, you are monitoring your vehicle, you are monitoring your home itself. Okay, so in that case, this is the physical system. So there the sensing devices are actually deployed, right? So, and there is some actuator control, which is basically controlling those devices and guiding those devices to take some actions, right? And all these devices are connected to this access point. So what we are going to have, we are going to have a this access point to which all these physical devices are going to. This access device can be a base station, okay, can be an edge server, or can be a means whatever the server for local storage you have used over there, right? And this access point is going to connect you to the internet or your cloud. Okay, so where you are going to apply this learning? Okay, now people do project for smart parking system. People do projects for smart road light management. Okay, so these type of projects are there. Now we need to, okay, the scenario is like today's scenario is that we need to connect all these different projects into one ecosystem. So we have a physical system and there are access points, and we are going to connect that those systems through this access point to the internet. Okay, to the internet, right? Now this agent, now what you are going to have, you are going to have different agents. You are going to have different agents. Now what these agents will do, like I told you, in this case we need to take some action. We should go left or we should go right, that we need to decide, right? So here also in this case you have some devices, IoT devices over there. What you should do, that here you are going to apply an agent, you are going to learn from here, you will get some data from here, and what action you should take in context of these physical devices. In context of these physical devices, what you should do, you should apply your learning algorithm over here itself, right? In the in some different scenario, if you have this access point over here, what you should do with the help of this mining algorithm, you should have an agent over here which is going to guide this access point what to do, right? So actuator controller is going to here and resource controller is also going to here. There is a very very new area which is as the scale of IoT is increasing, not very new, it comes with the IoT itself, the IoT resource management. So at which particular resource you should allocate, you should use at one particular time, how you are going to get that information, what are the trade-offs related to that resource. You need to judge those trade-offs, and based on that your agent is going to take some action. It is going to allocate some resource or going to take some measurement on that, on the basis of results. Then comes the internet. Right? So all the projects which like parking management system, so that project lies in this area only. If you are having a parking management system, that project covers the scope. This is the scope of that particular project. Okay. Now if you combine this parking with security, then the scope get increased, right? So we need to decide the scope of the project. We need to decide the scope of our research in where we are going to apply the learning, and we should specify these points very carefully when we decide or when we present a methodology for the project, right? So this is the basically layered architecture of IoT ecosystem. We have a perception layer, we have a network layer, and we have an application layer, right? So again, if we start with the application itself, like we do in case of this parking management system, we take a simple application is there and you are doing that particular project. Now what we need to do, we need to decide how we can improve that particular model. Okay, then there is going to be an agent which is going to improve. Again, this agent is same. I told you about agent is same in all the previous slides. The sense of agent is same. That agent is the model which is basically taking the decision. Okay, this is the prediction system, and what this agent is taking action. This particular agent is taking action. How it get improved? Okay, so how it is going to improve? It is going to improve through this state and rewards. Okay, we will apply. Now if we do application only, then we can stop here. Now we want to connect this application, this project, to other project. Okay, then comes, like I have given you the example that okay, it may rain, it is going to rain, or it may rain, okay, and it may not. That is the result which you are predicting, okay, based on a very nice sensor deployment you have done. That is the application. Now comes the decision making. Then you have to include this layer where you are going to invoke the other sensing devices or other services which are there in that particular IoT ecosystem. Then if you stop here, you should have one agent which is going to make a trade-off between these two layers, right? Again, if we stop here only, Okay, if we stop here only, then it is fine. Okay, we are going to have one agent over here, and we can have a learning model which is going to trade off between these two layers, right? And if we want to include perception also, if we want to include this perception layer, then we are going to have the agent over here which is going to decide the trade-offs. When we include this particular layer also, then we can see what can be done, right? So all these layers in a perfect IoT ecosystem, all these layers will be working in a combined manner, if I would say that, and you will have different learning approaches and different level of decision making at different layers. Okay, and the thing why we have we were forced to include this state, reward, and agent functionality, because the data was not uniformly distributed. It was skewed, and we were not having the data which would be really helpful. Okay, so that is the case when we have to use these machine learning approaches in context of reinforcement learning approaches, right? If you have any doubt, please let me know. This is what I have to tell you. Yes, any doubt? I can discuss that.
Yes, sir. This is Krishna here. I just have one question.
Yes.
So related to the network layer, what kind of data we will be analyzing? I can understand that the perception layer will like use the sensor data, and then the model will be running and taking the decisions. But in case of network layer, what will be the actual inputs to the machine learning models, and what do we expect out of it?
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Like I have mentioned over here, this is IoT communication network. Okay, so what means you have different services which are provided by the IoT sensors. Okay, so how those services are going to be invoked, how the communication between those two services are going to take place, what is the cost associated with those communication channels. Okay, so because when we move from this application layer to this network layer, there may be two different projects which are going to work together to provide the end service to the user, right? So what is the cost associated with that? That is what this agent over here is going to take care. The example would be like this: we have a system, weather monitoring system, and we have a fire station also. So we need to set up a trade-off between these two independent projects, because fire station has nothing to do, fire sensor has nothing to do with the weather monitoring, right? So those two are independent projects, but we are going to combine those projects. Now, how we should combine and check the cost associated with these two different projects. Okay, that we will do with the help of network layer, right? So this type of data is going to be there. Okay, one example is like if we talk about this network faults. Okay, so network faults, you may have seen there are in your system also, you will find, if you are using a Linux system, you'll find so many logs are generated, right? So how we can get the data, that is what I'm answering right now. Okay, from where you should get this type of data. So the data will be in very raw form. So how you can get the data? You may have some network logs, okay, in your computer. The router, which is basically connecting two different networks, that is going to have some logs, right? So those logs will be very useful if you want to analyze the network or the communication between two different applications. Okay, is that increasing some sort of cost over there, some sort of overhead you are is there. Okay, that is one type of data set which you can have. Even at the Kaggle, if you find out, there is a data set associated for network faults also. Okay, so this type of data is available. Okay, right? So but we, in a real time scenario, we should have this data continuously streaming to the system, right? I hope I have answered your question, participants.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome. Any other question? And in context of perception layer, if I tell you, in concept, in this context, for example, an actuator was there, some moving device, for example, is there. So there is clear resource management need to be done, right? So if we have two independent services, now you have two projects, okay, two IoT based projects. You are doing those projects now. When we talk about the perception layer, actually are you going to invoke project A if you are getting some prediction from project B? In that case, it means it is a simple resource scheduling problem. So if your project B is requiring some project A, okay, and when I say project, it means these are two different services provided in the IoT ecosystem. And by services, it has that infrastructure like parking infrastructure, okay, like weather infrastructure. These are the services. Weather monitoring is one service, but it has a different, complete infrastructure over there. Now, when we talk about perception, now one project, okay, one service is predicting something. One project is predicting something, that B project, okay, and it is predicting that we should invoke A. So, are we going to invoke A or not? The cost is associated with every device, right? So you need to predict that. It is not like that somebody is saying it will rain or activate everything, okay, activate everything. So that should not be the case. Now, how you are going to trade off with, in that, okay? So whether you are going to invoke that particular project A or not, that is going to be decided. And this resource allocation, a complete area is there, resource allocation in case of IoT. Okay, so in that case, these approaches, these reinforcement learning approaches are getting attention nowadays, because here you can directly impose the factor of cost here, okay, right? It is not a different type of learning. Again, here also you can see there is only the neural network which is working, but in a different manner. The working is done by neural network itself. You will find out if you try to implement, you are going to implement a neural network only, right? And after the deep learning comes, there we have a deep neural network, okay? So there is nothing much sense in that. It's a neural network with more number of hidden units, that we say a deep neural network, but it is going to make the same type of sense over here also, okay? So previous to that, if you want to find out a more problem like this, you can do like playing chess and biosystem and TikTok game. You can play, and one multi-arm bandit problem you will see. Okay, you may have seen that type of machine. Sometimes means we have to move one arm of the machine by putting one coin, then it may give us some coins as a reward back or not. So it's that type of some sort of gambling is over there. So this type of problems which were existing previously in the literature itself, now those problems and the model which actually solve those problems, those models are going to be applied in the IoT ecosystem. Okay. Yes. Any student has any more questions? Please ask. Any participant?
Hello.
Yes.
If you go on the slide where you were showing the connections of all the appliances and how the sensory information was being passed over the internet. So just I was a little bit curious. Yes, over here. I was a little bit curious about the sensory information that is being passed over the internet, and is there anything around revolving around my information being passed and the security perspective around it? Just a curiosity question, if you would enlighten me on that part.
Okay, so you are asking me about security aspects over here.
Yes, Professor, precisely.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So there are security aspects, right? We are not going to simply send the complete data to the internet. Okay, so it depends which type of security algorithm you are using and what is your policy in sharing the data, right? Are you sharing the complete data? For example, in case of health monitoring system, are you actually sending the complete data to the server, and that server is basically available to all other service users? So you need to annotate some sort of data. So there is some security aspects over there, right? You have rightly pointed out there is some security aspects over there, but how to handle that security aspect, that comes under how you are going to provide the security, actually which algorithm you are going to use, what is your security policy, that you need to take care, right? So this, what I have told you about that if you have data, right, if you have data, then what you can do. Now to secure that data, you need to have a separate policy, right? So again, to means there are approaches, means you should compress the data, you should change the form of the data, but again, are you able to apply that data to the are you going to use that particular data as an input to a mining algorithm? Does your mining algorithm going to recognize the data once it is encrypted? Okay, so these challenges are there. Okay, these challenges are there, right? So instead of sending the exact data, for example, you may be getting some readings, right? And but you are sending only some compressed information, you are sending the average. Okay, so that is one sort of I just given you example how you can do that. If it works for you, then you can send only. Otherwise, you should have a policy through which you are sharing the data between the access point and the internet here, right? So there are some open cloud servers, open source cloud servers, which are there, to which you can upload your data, right? Or you can have your own cloud server, right? So for example, in case of Amazon Web Services, okay, AWS cloud, if you have, so means you should include, when you purchase the cloud space, you should include the policy of your data when you purchase that particular solution. And if you set up your own cloud, then you don't have to worry about it, right? So it depends on your policy itself. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, Professor. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, any more questions?
Dr. Paul, I would request you to summarize the session, and then maybe we can take any further questions if they have. Okay. Let me summarize, and in context of the future. Yes. Dr. Amrit, sorry to cut you short, but we have time. Although I was just saying that when you finish your session, then they can ask the questions, because in that way we can will not be able to cover all the topics by 5 o'clock. So it's better you complete the entire session, and then you can take the questions.
Okay. Now to conclude, let me give you some of the future aspects which are there. Okay, some of the future aspects and future projects which can be which one can pursue, right? So there is the problem which still exists is that we don't have agents like which can combine all these physical system entities. Okay, so if we have different projects over here, so we don't have an agent which is going to trade off for all the different projects or different services into this physical system, right? We don't have an agent which combine the access point for one project with another project. Okay, so we are supposed to develop the agents which actually combines different access points, right? So in context of autonomous system, we have actuator controller, right? We control different IoT devices, but the agents which we need to have, okay, there is a research gap. How we can develop this type of agents, right? And in case of access point also, we have a research gap. How we can develop this particular agent here also, right? So if I tell you the development which can be done, like in this case only, in this model, if I tell you, now suppose we have a model for resource allocation, like, so I told you about the resource allocation is one of the area in which we can pursue, right? So we have a resource R, which we have set of resources, not a single resource. We have set of resource R, which is there. Now we want to allocate this resource R to a particular service, okay, so that a user, the demand of one user can be satisfied, okay. Now each of these resources may be associated with some cost. So we need to model the cost for all the resources, right? So one means you may be having a, for example, in case of IoT, and if we include cloud in that, so there may be different virtual machines are there, okay, and each virtual machine, giving you one virtual machine will generate some cost. We will be having some cost, okay. So each virtual machine will be having some cost. Now we need to trade off. We need to have a trade-off which virtual machine I should allocate. For example, I have a virtual machine, and which is having, in which I have allocated a RAM of say 10 GB, right? And user request came, and that request was only requiring a RAM of 2 GB, right? But I don't have a system or a virtual machine available with me right now which can actually match the requirement of the user, right? And if I allocate the available virtual machine with 10 GB RAM to the user, in that case the cost will be high, okay, and the parameter which we can monitor is the utilization of the resource will be less, right? So all those parameters, you will have so many parameters. If you have 10 resources, with those 10 resources, and if you have 10 instances of those resources, you can see that what the problem is going to explode over from here itself, okay. The complexity of the problem is going to increase. Now if you keep on predicting with the help of the standard machine learning approaches, that will take time, and the result would not be very efficient also. So in that case, what we can do, we can apply these reinforcement learning based approaches to improve the results. Now how can you implement this? How you should pursue this? So one thing you should have basic understanding of neural network, okay. So you should have a basic understanding of neural network. First thing, you should do that. You should have a basic understanding of Python also, neural network. Then you are going to implement. Then with the help of there are some reinforcement learning packages available, which are there, with the help of which you can implement that, okay. So, and if you go with the deep learning model, okay, then you can simply implement a deep neural network for getting the policy. But instead of getting the class labels, you should concentrate yourself to get the efficient action. So what the action is going to be in case of resource scheduling? The action would be allocation of the resources, okay. So in case of IoT ecosystem, if some user is demanding something and you want to take some action, it means you want to allocate some resource to the request which has come from that particular user, okay. So you are going to allocate some resource, right? So when you allocate that resource, you get one data instance, you get one entry in your data set. Then based on that, based on the scenario which came, right, based on the new scenario which is there, what will be the new scenario? That you have more new requests which are coming, and then you have to satisfy those requests also. So because in the previous action you have allocated some resources, now new requests are coming. Are you able to satisfy the new requests or not? And what is your state? Are you in a good state or not? That is managed by the reward itself, right? So to give you a very generic aspect from where you should start, I'll show you one image. Just a second. Just a second. I stop sharing from here.
Hello, Dr. Amrit.
Yes, sir. I'm sharing something.
Okay.
Just a second. Let me find this. Right. This machine I would like to show to you. I'll give you one example. The problem is of multi-arm bandit problem. From where you should start, okay, implementing all these approaches. Okay, so
we cannot see your screen yet, Dr. Amrit.
Okay, one second. How should I do that? One second. Okay, I just want to show you the machine. Okay, some student may have not seen that. Okay, now this is that. Here is this machine. Okay, so this is known as multi-arm bandit problem. Okay, so first problem which you should implement is this multi-arm bandit problem. What you can do, you can you will get, means this is already implemented, you just need to go through it. Okay, and there is one predefined what this machine is does. Basically we push this particular arm and we put one coin, we get the reward. Okay, reward would be that we may get some coins, new coins, or some gift. Okay, so sometimes we may not get any gift also. Okay, so it can also be possible. So the case is that when after how many exploration or after how many time we push this particular arm, we are going to get a jackpot. Okay, so this is one solution, and all this particular scenario you will find the code. Okay, I'll share the code also. Okay, so you'll find the code, and with this what you need to do, you just modify your objective function. You just need to modify the objective function. Here in your case the objective function is that when actually you are going to get a low cost decision, less cost resource scheduling. Okay, so that would be your objective. So there are many possible times we can push that particular arm to search for the reward. Okay, so in the same manner we need to model this IoT ecosystem problem in that sense, right? After multi-arm bandit problem, you should go for the Q-learning approach. Okay, you should go with the Q-learning approach. Then after Q-learning, you should go for deep learning, deep reinforcement learning. So this is the procedure you should follow. So first you should implement multi-arm bandit, then you should implement a Q-learning approach, then you should implement a deep learning model. After implementing a deep reinforcement learning model, you should modify your objective function, which is R basically, in such a way you should get you should get low cost and high quality of the service in an IoT ecosystem. That you should be able to do. Okay, so this is one type of approach which you can pursue for your projects. The other type of approach is like this. We may have a totally imbalanced data. Okay, so this approach says that in this particular approach, the Q learning is applied. Okay, Q learning is also a reinforcement learning. That learning is applied to get the to improve this particular situation of imbalanced data set. What you can do, you can explore this area. You can explore this area by applying different reinforcement learning approaches. So you should have a problem, which is that problem is associated with IoT ecosystem, and you want to do some prediction, and based on those prediction, you want to take some decision. Now, the trade-off of those decisions should be modeled using this reinforcement learning models. Okay, so you can apply all different, the areas means the scope is very high. You can apply whatever the reinforcement learning you can approach, you can you are able to understand, you can apply and compare the results for the starting for starting this learning this particular area. You can do this in that manner. Okay, this is one type of approach you can pursue, and like in this case also, you can associate all different features with some cost. Okay, so this literature which I am referring is from 2020 only. Okay, so there are different services of IoT which are there. This is done in case of health sector only. Okay, so same you can do in different as I have shown you slide for the different trends in the IoT ecosystem. You can select one service and you can apply this cost-based solution and different reinforcement learning algorithm to handle the data in that particular IoT ecosystem. The other type of approach which you can follow for developing the project is in this case. In this case, what you can do, what you have to learn, you have to learn the Hadoop ecosystem first. You should be able to understand HDFS. You should be able to understand Spark. Okay, then you should be able you should have the knowledge of Python language. Then after that, what you can do, you can have different heterogeneous sources of the data. Like here in this image, you can find out. You can have different heterogeneous sources of the data, for example, from smart traffic monitoring and smart home. We can connect the data into the IoT ecosystem. Then what type of predictions you can do, what type of decision you can take, that you can do with the help of IoT ecosystem. Right now, what you need to implement either you need to implement a distributed approach or a centralized approach. So which you are going to follow. So if you pursue with the distributed approach, the idea would be that you only generate the information from the data which you get from the smart home. You only use the information which you get from the smart traffic monitoring. Then based on this information only, you take some decision for IoT ecosystem. It is not like that you are going to combine this data set. You are going to combine this data set and then going to predict something, because the correlation, you may have seen this correlation factor when you may have studied about the pre-processing of the data. The correlation between the two features is very important. Are those features are related or not related? That should be taken care. So decisions are related to each other, but the features are related to each other or not. That you need to take care of, right? So this type of model which you can develop by yourself by combining the data coming from different services, only the information, but not the data, only the information from the data, and then which type of solution you are going to take, which solution you are going to take in the IoT ecosystem, and the method which you are going to follow, the same method, same distributed model you should follow. So in context of, because we have termed it as large data set, because the data set is not large. If I say this is the data set of one home and one particular home, and we are saying that it's a smart home, but when we connect different community, in that case we are going to that scale get the data of that particular scale. Now all the different applications will come from that only, right? So when we talk about IoT ecosystem, so you will apply one processing unit for each service. You can do that. Then you combine the result to generate the final result. So the example I have taken over here, for example, here in this case, I can map the problem into this solution. For example, you have one subset of the data set, and this data set is coming from one heterogeneous device. Okay, and you want to take some decision based on the reading from these subsets of the device. And again, you are getting some data from some different set of sensor. Now, your ecosystem model, these systems are basically predicting something. Okay, so based on your problem and what decision you are going to take, that you can simply, this is a very naive approach. Okay, this is a very naive approach that you are going to vote for the results. Okay, so you should, whether you are going to perform this voting or not, that depends, right? So you should be able to understand that which model suits for you. Okay, I would be very happy if you come up with your own distributed model. Okay, so you can come up with your own distributed model, like you can, instead of SVM, so very naturally which are there, which are pre-existing distributed model. For example, if you take the example of ensemble learning, so in case of ensemble learning, what is there? You have different classifiers. Okay, not even in this case it is SVM only na. In that case you can have different classifiers. One is decision tree, one is SVM, one is you are using KNN, one is you are using artificial neural network. You are combining all those classifiers and getting the results. Okay, again the complexity will be very high, but do you really need those type of classifier and to get that particular ensemble? That depends. So these type of problems which you can pursue in your projects or in your research area. Okay, thank you. That's all from my side, Vishal sir. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can contact me. These are my contacts. You can find here. Okay, you can contact me through this. Okay, and thank you all. Thank you for listening. If you have any doubt, I am open to questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amrit. I would like to ask you one thing actually. Yes, can you please re-emphasize on this voted aggregation?
Voted aggregation.
Yeah, I just lost you on that, but it seems very interesting thing, but I'm not aware of this. But can you please help me understand this? What is voted aggregation?
Okay, voted aggregation, by this it means that we have one data set only. The data set is one. Okay, so for example, it is the data set for fault or no fault, right? So the problem is like this, that in a wind turbine, for example, we are going to predict whether there is any fault in the turbine or not. Okay, so we are getting a continuous stream of the data, and we have taken some samples from that large data sets, or we can simply divided the complete data set into these three parts. Okay, so we have done 3 divisions of the data sets. Now we fit our learning model on the subset of the data sets. Okay, so we have this support vector machine, which is one machine learning approach. We input this subset of the data set to this particular support vector machine. So this support vector machine, because it's a binary classifier, say it has generated, let me just change the color, say it has generated a hyperplane like this. Okay, so this hyperplane is generated in the space by this particular SVM. Now this, because the data set is not common to all the support vector machines, so this support vector machine may generate a hyperplane which is something like this. Okay, and this support vector machine may be going to generate a hyperplane which is something like this. Okay, so based on when we want to test a particular point, so to test whether a data point means whether a particular situation, and that situation is a data point basically, can result in a faulty situation or not. Okay, that we can do with the help of these 3 models. We will input this t point. We will input this t point to different model over here. We will check whether t is a fault class or no fault class on this particular SVM. We will check t is a fault class or no fault class on this, or we will check over here also. For example, in this case, if 2 says this particular instance belongs to fault, okay, and 1 say it is no fault, okay, so it may result in no fault, okay. So because 2 classifiers are saying that it is going to result in a faulty situation, then the result would be fault, okay. In that manner it is going to predict. So this is a simple voted aggregation of different classifier over the ecosystem we can take, right?
Okay.
I think
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, I am having one question among this
Yes,
side.
please.
Sir, you have well explained about the topic. Sir, my question is, you have explained about the multi-armed bandit example.
Yes.
Sir, will you explain again, sir? I couldn't understand it actually.
Okay. Multi-arm bandit problem. Okay, so if that problem belongs to core reinforcement learning approach, right? So that problem is for that when actually you are going to get the reward, and that the maximum reward, and that reward is basically you are going to hit a jackpot, okay. So how many times you should move the arm? So there is a probability distribution hidden inside that machine, and you are basically trying to get that distribution. If you know that distribution, in that sense you will always hit the jackpot, okay. You will always say, now I can now it will be means I'm going to hit the jackpot, if you know that particular distribution. But you don't know that, so you try and wait, sometime you may have, if you explore that problem, you may see some videos that in that case if one person is moving the arm 100 times, but he eventually get frustrated on 101, the jackpot was there, right? So till what point one should move the arm? And again, the problem the complexity of the problem increases when there is not single machine, there are multiple machines. So if you study this problem, people keep moving on the machine. So the people used to sit on one machine, move arm twice, and then move to some different machine, then move the arms, or they keep on checking that which particular machine is has not hit the jackpot for a long time, okay, from a long time. So in that case they are going to sit on that particular machine and going to hit the jackpot. So how this complete approach is modeled in this reinforcement learning, that we can do with the help of this reward scenario, right? So if your reward function, you are going to model the reward function in such a way that as long as the arm machine is arm of one particular machine, one user is moving, some probability is going to increase that you may hit the jackpot, okay. So it is not as simple as that. I'm telling you, you go through the reward function, you will get to know that there are some parameters, that number of machines, how many number of machines are there, how many attempts you have made, and actually how many attempts you are going to make, okay. You can set that parameter also. I'll hit only for 100 times only. So that is the scale of that problem, okay. So in the same manner, you can land up that particular problem to this IoT ecosystem. You want to take some decision basically, and the decision space is very high, is very complex, and you have many possible solution, possible decision. After one decision, a branch of decision comes again, and when you take next decision, again a different branches of the tree, I would say a tree of decision is there. So how you are going to select one decision, that you do with the help of experience which you get when you explore the network, okay. How you will do that? You will keep on moving the arm, okay. So if you do that for infinite time, you will have the exact distribution. Are you getting my point, Umang? Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
So Thank you, Dr. Amrit. That was a great session, and I'm seeing the message window over here, and they are giving very nice feedback for this entire session. And
Okay,
it was
thank you.
great to
Thank you
hear
so
from
much.
you, and everyone is. I think they are all satisfied, and I was involved in the entire session very closely, and there are many things, and there are so many things for the young students and for researchers, and even I got a thing to know about my research area. So I think there
Oh,
was
that's so nice of you.
there was one or the other thing for all the audiences who were present in the in this during this session. So it was great to have you here, sir.
Thank you so
And
much, sir. Thanks for your invitation, sir. And thank you all participants for patiently listening to me. Thank you so much.